The Duke and Duchess adopted a boy as a companion for their son, but during the bath, they discovered the child was actually a girl. Rooney trembled with fear. She thought the Duke would be furious and send her back. If that happened, she would be beaten to death by the headmaster, just like her friend. The Duchess, now aware of the truth, was in a predicament, but she still instructed the maids to give Rooney a proper bath and dress her. The moment she saw Rooney, her heart melted. How could there be such an adorable little girl? The next second, Andy, the Duke's second son, burst in, yelling, "I told you, I don't need a playmate." As soon as he finished, he saw Rooney. He asked his mother, puzzled, why she had brought home a doll. Everyone present couldn't help but laugh. "I wanted to bring someone home to be your playmate, but it turns out it's a girl." Rooney bowed repeatedly, apologizing, and begged them not to send her away. Her sweet and adorable appearance instantly captured Andy's heart. "Isn't this the legendary cute little sister?" He immediately ran to his father, pleading with him to let Rooney stay. "I don't mind. I really like her." These words instantly gave Rooney a glimmer of hope. Perhaps she really could live here. However, the Duke sternly said, "Enough. Now that you've seen the child, that's enough. It's getting late. Go back to your rooms." His cold voice saddened Rooney. She hadn't expected to have such unrealistic hopes. After all, she had deceived them. Now only the Duke, Duchess, and Andy remained in the room. The Duchess pleaded with her husband to let Rooney stay. If she were returned, she would surely be severely punished. Andy firmly echoed his mother's plea, but the Duke remained resolute. "No matter what, it's not acceptable." They both disagreed and tried to reason with him. But the Duke added, "She's just unbearably cute. I really should have a daughter." His friend had always boasted about his daughter. He hadn't expected that trying to find a playmate for his son would result in finding a girl. Perhaps it was fate. He decided to let the girl stay for the time being. However, he would still consider the matter of formally adopting her. This decision would make things much easier for their future relationship. The Duchess was happy but also puzzled. If he hadn't intended to send Rooney away, why did he put on such a frightening expression and tell her to leave? It turned out the Duke simply thought Rooney looked tired and wanted her to go and rest. Andy added, "Father's expression just now looked like he was going to eat someone." The Duke panicked. His first impression had been so terrible. Meanwhile, Rooney was overjoyed to learn she could stay, but she was terrified when she heard the Duke was coming downstairs. After all, his expression earlier had indeed been quite frightening. Just then, the Duke knocked and entered, but the girl was already hiding by the bed, trembling. "Did you get some rest?" Rooney answered loudly and nodded vigorously. "Thank you so much for letting me stay here. I'm so sorry I didn't greet you properly right away." The Duke wondered what she had gone through to be so afraid. "I'm not here to apologize," he reassured her softly. "I'm here to give you a new name." It turned out the Duchess had suggested this. When they were expecting their eldest, they had considered a girl's name. It would suit her perfectly. "Your name will be Lonnie. Lonnie Evelyn." The girl remained silent. This made the Duke think she didn't like it. But then, with tears in her eyes, she thanked him for such a beautiful name. Her sweet smile instantly captivated the Duke. He immediately ordered the maids to prepare the room his younger sister had used for her. This made the maids furious. They cursed under their breath. How can a lowly orphan live in that room? Suddenly, the Duke, who was about to leave, said, "There's something I forgot to mention." The maid smirked, thinking there was no way the Duke would let an orphan live in such a nice room. But the Duke, with a serious expression, said, "Your nickname is Lolo. Remember that." Both the maids and Lonnie were stunned. The girl's luck had changed dramatically. From an orphan, she had become the Duke's second son's playmate. On her first night at the Duke's mansion, she had a nightmare. She dreamt of the time she was falsely accused and beaten by the headmaster. The cruel maid, seeing that she was still asleep, angrily woke her up. Lonnie was startled. She bolted upright in bed, gasping for air. It was clear she was terrified, but the maid didn't care. She curtly told her to get up and wash. She looked down on Lonnie, the orphan, just a commoner, yet she had landed in such a privileged position. "The water's dripping on the floor. Wipe it up and get dressed." Lonnie looked at the dress on the bed with delight. She couldn't believe she got to wear such a beautiful dress. "What are you standing there for? Do you want me to dress you?" The woman's sudden outburst startled Lonnie. She quickly said she could manage. But after the maid left the room, she was lost in thought. How was she supposed to put this on? Suddenly, Andy's voice came from outside the door. "Lolo!" the boy exclaimed excitedly. "Big brother's here to get you." The maid who had bathed her earlier asked with concern, "How are you feeling?" Andy was unaware of what had happened. Lonnie quickly said she was fine. When they were alone, she asked the maid to keep it a secret. but it wouldn't be long before everyone found out. Soon, their first family dinner together began. The Duchess warmly called her darling and asked if she had slept well. Even Andy thoughtfully cut her steak for her and told her to take a big bite. Lonnie opened her mouth wide, stuffing it full like a little hamster. It was adorable, and both the Duchess and Andy were charmed. "It's so good. It's so delicious." Andy beamed with pride. "See? Listening to your big brother is always right." Just then, Andy noticed Lonnie's sleeve had touched the steak. He quickly rolled up her sleeve. The bruises on her wrist were alarming. Lonnie immediately knelt down, begging them not to send her away. "I know such ugly marks don't belong here," she pleaded, "but please don't send me away." To her surprise, the Duke didn't say a word. He simply led her to the carriage. "May I ask you something? Were those bruises inflicted by the headmaster?" Lonnie trembled, afraid to answer, thinking she was still scared of him. The Duke spoke softly. "If you feel uncomfortable living with us, I can find someone else to care for you, but we all hope you'll stay with us. Of course, only if you're willing." His words warmed Lonnie's heart, but when she looked up, she saw the orphanage. Was the Duke returning her? The bruises she had tried so hard to hide had been discovered. Without a word, the Duke brought her back to the orphanage. The headmaster came out, feigning remorse. She assumed the person in the carriage was the Duke's daughter, but when she saw Lonnie's face, she erupted in fury. "That brat! How dare she trick me?" She continued to slander Lonnie, claiming she was a habitual liar. But the Duke didn't believe her. He smiled at Lonnie and said, "Don't worry. Speak freely. Tell me everything." Reassured, Lonnie found her courage and shouted, "She's lying. It's the headmaster who lies. She beat my friend Pete to death, even though he did nothing wrong." The headmaster stammered, clearly guilty. The Duke immediately had her taken away. That evening, they finally returned to the mansion. The Duchess and Andy were waiting anxiously. As soon as they saw Lonnie, they rushed to her, checking for injuries. They fussed over her with concern. Lonnie couldn't believe it. She had found such kind people, simply because the Duke had believed her unconditionally. She was beyond words with gratitude. That night, the Duchess brushed her hair, imagining how lovely it would look when it grew longer. She then cleansed Lonnie's bruises with holy water. When all the bruises were revealed, the Duchess's heart ached. "Why were you living as a boy at the orphanage, child?" "My mother told me to," Lonnie replied. "I don't really know why." The Duchess understood. Perhaps her mother had feared she would be bullied. "You don't have to hide anymore," she reassured her. "You're safe here." Lonnie was overjoyed. The next day, the Duke arranged for Lonnie's identification papers. He himself was her guarantor. Her full name was now Lonnie Evelyn Clay. Clay was the surname of the Duke's noble lineage. It would benefit her education and future prospects. Lonnie was deeply grateful. She promised to study hard and learn to read and write. She would do anything the Duke asked of her, then go out and play. Lonnie was confused. "He's been hinting. He wants to play with you. Even if it wasn't for Andy, a child's job is to play. So go on, get to work." Soon, the two were out on the lawn. Andy flopped down on the grass and beckoned Lonnie to sit beside him. "All right, young master." "Lonnie, why do you always call me young master? Can't you call me brother?" "How could I dare? I can't be so disrespectful to the young master." Andy was a little disappointed, but he let it go. "When you feel more comfortable, then you can call me brother. But you must call me brother from now on." Lonnie hesitated to link pinkies. Seeing this, Andy grabbed her hand, then lay back on the grass, satisfied. He was snoring within moments. Lonnie decided to explore the area while he slept. The lake here was incredibly beautiful. She decided, as she had done before, to climb a tree for a better view. But today's shoes were clearly unsuitable. Halfway up, she suddenly lost her grip and fell. At the very last moment, a handsome young man appeared and caught her. Who was this boy? A girl falls from a 100-meter tree and is caught by a handsome stranger. She instantly developed a crush on the unfamiliar boy. The next moment, she learned he was the Duke's eldest son. Yes had returned home early today, so he went to the forest to meet his younger brother and to see what the girl his father had mentioned in his letter looked like. At this, Yes suddenly smiled at Lonnie. The girl blushed crimson. Just then, Andy leaned closer and asked, "Lonnie, why aren't you eating?" The name Lonnie puzzled Yes. "Brother, You can call her Lonnie. That's the nickname father gave her. Caught out, the Duke was a little embarrassed. He tried to maintain his composure. It suits her. It does suit her. I'll call her Lonnie too. Lonnie had intended to introduce herself elegantly with her new name, but that plan was now ruined. Suddenly, Annie shoved a piece of cake into Lonnie's mouth. The sweet strawberries and cream were delightful. The Duke and Duchess watched the scene, beaming, but the eldest son stared at her menacingly. What was going on? Suddenly, the butler announced the arrival of guests. It was the Marchioness and her daughter, the Duke's sister and niece. The women were clearly looking for trouble. It turned out the spiteful maid had embellished the story, saying Lonnie was cunning, disguising herself as a boy to infiltrate the mansion, tricking the Duke into giving her a noble surname, and even taking over his old room. Sophia was determined to get rid of Lonnie, and her daughter, Lydia, had taken an immediate interest in Yes. Just then, Yes noticed Lonnie's glass was empty. He stood up to refill it for her. This gesture infuriated Lydia. The malicious mother and daughter were already plotting Lonnie's expulsion. The tea party ended shortly after. Andy grumbled, saying he didn't like his aunt and Lydia. Annie always lectures me about everything, and Lydia always follows brother around, treating me like a servant. But now I have Lonnie. I can just play with Lonnie. He happily pulled Lonnie toward his room, then noticed her hands were covered in scrapes. It turned out they were from her fall from the tree. The doctor was puzzled. The wounds were fresh, yet already showing signs of healing. Do your wounds always heal this quickly? Yes, even serious injuries heal fast. The doctor examined Lonnie's arm. The injury from her first arrival was completely gone. Although the Duchess had used holy water, it shouldn't have healed this fast. He couldn't explain it. The doctor gave a few instructions and left, looking thoughtful. This touched Lonnie. For the first time, she had thoughts about her future. She wanted to become a great doctor. Just then, Andy popped his head in from the doorway, inviting Lonnie to play in his room. But Lydia suddenly appeared, acting very friendly. It's so nice to meet you. Let's have some girl time, just us. Okay, Lonnie. Lonnie knew this girl was a true noble lady. Perhaps if she learned from her, she could figure out how to fit in. So she agreed. When no one was looking, Lydia smirked. How would she make things difficult for Lonnie? Just because her brother glanced at her in the crowd, she was targeted by the Marchioness. Pretending to be friendly, she had her maid openly mock Lonnie's lack of manners, holding the teacup with two hands, making such a racket. It's lowering my lady's standards. Lydia pretended to scold her maid, but she was actually mocking Lonnie for being a country bumpkin. She didn't realize Yes had overheard everything. Yes had run into his younger brother earlier and heard that Lydia had taken Lonnie away. He thought they would get along, being close in age, but a past incident made him worry. A maid had accidentally spilled water on his hand. He hadn't been upset, but had asked if she was all right. Afterwards, Lydia had not only verbally abused the maid, but had also punished her physically. Although this situation was different, he was still concerned and decided to check on Lonnie himself. He hadn't expected this. How dare you insult a child under the Duke's protection? Are the Marquis's servants always this arrogant? Lydia feigned an apology for her maid, but Yes wasn't buying it. He stood up for Lonnie. This child has the right to do anything here. As for that maid, the Duke's household will handle her punishment. Lydia was trembling with anger, but forced a smile in front of Yes. She was already plotting her next move. After leaving the room, Lonnie berated herself for her ignorance. Yes noticed and immediately comforted her. You don't have to be so timid. This is our home. They are merely guests. However, his words didn't have the desired effect. Instead, they made the naive girl even more determined to learn proper etiquette. She didn't want to embarrass the Duke's household, and this played right into Lydia's hands. She offered to have Lonnie join her lessons. Lonnie innocently expressed her gratitude. Then, an unexpected person appeared. Her friend from the orphanage, Pike, who was supposed to be dead. Lonnie rushed forward excitedly to confirm, but the boy acted as if he didn't recognize her at all. Lonnie apologized for her behavior, but Lydia spoke coldly from the side. You don't need to apologize. He's here to take beatings for me. Lonnie didn't understand, but Lydia explained, noble aristocrats can't be hit by teachers. Soon, etiquette class officially began. Lonnie, having never had such lessons, made frequent mistakes. This angered the tutor, who was looking for faults. The woman picked up a ruler to hit her. Lydia hypocritically offered the boy beside her to take the punishment. Kind Lonnie couldn't let someone else suffer for her. Lydia, who whose scheme had worked, pretended to chancel. The loud sounds of whipping echoed through the hallway. A few days later, Andy, having finished his swordsmanship lesson, went to find Lonnie. But when he opened the door, he was startled. Lonnie looked incredibly challenged. "Sister, what happened? You look like a skeleton. Who did this? I won't let them get away with it." The sudden concern made Lonnie burst into tears. Just then Yes arrived. The girl suddenly felt ashamed. She covered her face and tried to flee. But before she could leave, Yes picked her up like a chick. "Tell me what happened first." The orphan girl was severely beaten by her tutor for not knowing etiquette. Her haggard appearance worried her second older brother. After receiving his concern, she couldn't control herself and cried as both brothers surrounded her, asking for the reason. Observing Yes noticed the marks on her hands. He knew she had been hiding something, so he found an excuse to send Andy away. Then he knelt down on one knee and applied ointment to her hands. His gentle movements and serious expression made Lonnie's heart flutter. She wanted Yes to protect her, but he simply told her to rest well and turned to leave. "Young master, I want to go with you. I don't want to be alone in my room." Yes found this strange. She had a maid assigned to care for her, so how could she be alone? But before he could finish speaking, he realized something was wrong. It was indeed just her there, as if it were an empty room. Even the fireplace wasn't lit. He remembered overhearing the maids planning something that morning. It was targeted at Lonnie, so he wrote a letter to his mother and invited her to Lonnie's room. The Marchioness decided to go along. After all, she had orchestrated this whole drama. How could she miss it? As they passed Lydia's room, the sounds of crashing and banging came from inside. It turned out her necklace was missing. The girl cried, saying it was a gift from her father and very important. Then, with an innocent look, she mentioned she had been attending classes with Lonnie recently, subtly directing suspicion towards Lonnie. Soon, a pre-planned tea party began. The Marchioness continuously flattered and praised Yes, wanting her daughter to marry him. Currently, in the entire empire, only the royal family and the Duke's household possessed divine power. Divine power not only represented authority, but also legitimacy comparable to the royal family. It was said that young Yes had already manifested his divine power. If they married, everything would be hers. However, Yes wasn't very willing to engage with his presumptuous aunt, so he targeted Lonnie. First, with a few words, he made the girl appear flustered due to nervousness. Then he signaled to a maid, instructing her to accidentally spill tea, staining the carpet. Afterward, he feigned surprise and produced the hidden necklace, accusing Lonnie of stealing it, claiming that was why she was so nervous. "How could you be so ungrateful? The Duke's household has been so kind to you, and you do something so despicable." The falsely accused Lonnie anxiously explained she had never seen the necklace before. But the woman pressed on aggressively. "You dare to lie? See, lowborn people are simply incurable." Lonnie wanted to explain, but couldn't speak. She instinctively looked at Yes and saw his face was grim. Was he also angry with her? Just then, the Duchess stood up, attempting to stop the farce. Hitting a child is already unforgivable, and now you want to slander her without any evidence? The woman was shocked, but refused to admit anything. She even portrayed herself as the victim. As the two were at a standstill, Yes rebuked his aunt. "As an adult, shouldn't you feel ashamed?" Then he immediately switched his demeanor and comforted Lonnie. "Don't worry, Lolo, we will protect you." So, what exactly happened? One second the boy had a fierce expression towards others. The next he was beaming at his sister. This scene made Lydia tremble with jealousy. "You actually believe what that little wretch says?" Yes' face instantly turned cold. The Marchioness became even more indignant. "The evidence is clear. How can you only believe her? This is clearly an insult to us. Marquis, I will not let this go." Just then, the Duke entered. "You were the one who crossed the line." He ignored his sister's attempts to explain and walked directly towards Lonnie. He gently took the girl's hand and apologized. "I'm sorry, Lolo. I didn't know any of this." He glared furiously at his sister, Sophia. He'd heard she was the one responsible for Lonnie's condition. She looked guilty, but insisted it was the tutor's doing and had nothing to do with her. But the Duke wasn't fooled. Only a tutor benefiting from your support would dare do such a thing in the Duke's household. "As this child's guardian, I have the right to punish you. You should find another godfather." The woman was in disbelief. Her brother was abandoning her because of that little brat, even at the risk of antagonizing the Marquis household. But clearly his stance was firm. Lydia roared furiously. "Who does he think he is? Uncle, you're actually going to take him as your son?" You're rejecting me for that lowly orphan? Sophia, understanding the situation, didn't say anything more. She took her daughter and left, grumbling angrily. The Duke signaled, dismissing everyone except the relatively young Andy and Lonnie, preparing for a major house cleaning. Call all the servants in the house to me now. Meanwhile, Lonnie held the necklace, intending to return it to Lydia herself. After all, it looked quite valuable. But as soon as they opened the door, Lydia furiously charged at them. She raised her hand to strike Lonnie hard across the face. But Andy unhesitatingly stepped in front of her, despite the stinging pain on his face. He grinned, trying to act cool. Wasn't I just super cool? Anyone who saw that would think I'm a handsome older brother, right? Lydia, enraged, yelled, Lonnie is the biggest troublemaker in this family. The usually timid girl suddenly stepped forward, her gaze firm as she advanced, causing Lydia to stumble backward. Unexpectedly, Lonnie simply grabbed Lydia's hand and returned the necklace. Thank you, Mississippi. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot. I'll take your words as a lesson, and I won't cause any more trouble here. The girl the Duke brought back from the orphanage was bullied. The Duke, furious, summoned all the maids. Everyone whispered, unsure of what had happened. Only the governess who had struck Lonnie felt guilty. Unable to leave with the Marchioness, she was intercepted by the guards. Ein, standing behind, was filled with remorse. Although he had tried his best to be kind to Lonnie, he hadn't been able to stop the other maids from mistreating her. Therefore, he felt responsible. And there was the boy, who, for trying to reason with the enraged Lydia, had been struck with a cane and left there. Just then, the Duke descended the stairs. He asked if they knew why they had been summoned. Seeing no one answered, he walked directly to the governess and demanded to know what she had done wrong. The woman remained stubbornly silent, refusing to confess. The Duke got straight to the point. You physically punished the future Duke and Duchess of the Mars family. The other two maids involved instantly paled. They hadn't realized a maid could be so important. The Duke's expression was grim, his words even more frightening. I am stripping you of the title bestowed upon you by the former Duke. Get out of my territory. Judging by everyone's reaction, the punishment was clearly considered severe. Although the Duke shared this concern, he knew that without drastic measures, Lonnie might experience such treatment again. From now on, I will question each of you. I already know everything, so don't even think about lying to me. Meanwhile, Lonnie stared blankly at the necklace Lydia had discarded. Andy, not wanting her to dwell on it, tossed the necklace away. It's nothing important. Lonnie then remembered and urged Andy to go see a doctor immediately. The boy scratched his head sheepishly. If you call me big brother, I think it'll stop hurting. The girl asked innocently, but shouldn't you put some medicine on it to make it feel better? Just then, Lonnie saw a group of people leaving the mansion with their luggage. Among them was the boy who had been beaten. Close behind him was the maid Ein. She ran over happily and asked him where he was going. Ein stammered, unable to speak. At that moment, the butler stepped forward and asked Lonnie if she knew the person in front of her. She's the older sister who's been kind to me ever since I arrived. Ein smiled, touched, but still didn't say a word in her own defense. The butler then explained that the Duke and Duchess had ordered them to leave. Lonnie froze in shock. The next second, she burst into tears, crying out, "No!" The Duke, for the sake of the girl he brought back from the orphanage, was cleaning house. Watching the maids pack their belongings, he trembled with anger. Both the Duke and Duchess felt a pang of guilt. If they had been more attentive, this wouldn't have happened. Therefore, the Duke expelled everyone without providing letters of recommendation. This effectively ruined their resumes, making it difficult for them to find new jobs. They assumed Yes would find the punishment too harsh. However, the opposite was true. He even felt it wasn't enough. After all, the way they treated Lonnie was unforgivable. The Duchess believed it was sufficient. The child was fragile, and excessive punishment might be counterproductive. It was best to keep this matter from her. However, just then, the butler rushed in with an urgent report. The young lady had found out and was crying outside. Lonnie was clutching Ein's dress, refusing to let her go. As soon as the Duchess appeared, Lonnie rushed forward, begging her not to send Ein away. The Duchess assumed there had been a misunderstanding, but Ein didn't see it that way. She blamed herself. She had witnessed the mistreatment, but hadn't been able to stop them. Kind-hearted Lonnie quickly stepped forward and said that Ein hadn't done anything wrong. When she first arrived, I was the only one who spoke to her kindly. So, I want you to stay here. The maid was deeply moved. Such a small act of kindness had been remembered. This scene brought a smile to the Duchess's face. You're the first person she's ever wanted to keep this much. Then you'll be her personal maid. I was 1,000 times willing. Although I'm unworthy, if given the chance, I will certainly take the best care of Mississippi. Then Lonnie noticed the boy in the crowd. She spoke again, feeling shy. Madam, could you please let him stay too? If he goes back, he'll just be beaten again. The Duchess readily agreed to such a small request. Everyone immediately began to murmur. A personal maid was a position usually held by a senior servant with years of experience. I was incredibly lucky, led by the maid with dark purple hair. Everyone knelt down and begged Lonnie to give them another chance. Yes wouldn't hear of it. He drew his sword and placed it on the maid's shoulder. Enough! You should be grateful you're only being expelled. The boy ordered the guards to drag the others away. He turned and smiled, inviting Lonnie to return with him. Ein looked on, as if witnessing something incredibly sweet, and poor Andy was left forgotten in the corner. I'll feel relieved once these matters are resolved before leaving. Young master, where are you going? The holiday is almost over. I'll return to the academy tomorrow. This way the timing won't be too tight. Lonnie's heart suddenly started racing, and Yes seemed to notice it, so he joked, "Don't you want me to leave? Then I won't go." The orphanage girl finally called him brother. The young master was about to return to school. Lonnie suddenly felt very lost. Seeing this, the boy took out a heart-shaped candy and suddenly leaned in. "Don't you want me to leave? Then I won't go." Lonnie suddenly felt very embarrassed. "How could I stop you from leaving?" Yes gently patted her head, telling her to wait here obediently. Just then, Andy came running over resentfully. He grabbed Lonnie and scolded his brother. "Lolo is my brother. You can't take him away." Yes pretended to be hurt. "You used to follow me around saying you liked me the most. Have fun, kids. I'm leaving first." Lonnie thought Yes was returning to the academy now, but actually, he wanted to practice sword fighting before dinner. Andy's eyes immediately lit up, and Lonnie beside him also wanted to go. So she gathered her courage and said she wanted to serve the young master, like serving tea and water. But Yes firmly refused. "I don't need anyone to serve me. Just watch as a sister from the side." Lonnie responded happily, but habitually called him young master. At this, the cunning Yes changed his mind. Andy reminded her she should call him brother. Then he couldn't wait to hear it. Seeing Lonnie struggling to say it, the two pretended to turn and leave. Only then did Lonnie shout, "Brother, take me with you too." This struck right at the hearts of both boys. The three happily headed to the training ground. Soon Yes began his training. Although Lonnie didn't understand swordsmanship, she thought from the bottom of her heart that brother was amazing. At this time, Andy suddenly appeared, shouting that even if brother is cool, she can't fall for him. Lolo can only be his sister. He tried hard to swing his sword, and Lolo played along saying it was cool, asking if both brothers would become knights. Actually, it's about inheriting the family. To become the family head, one must be acknowledged by the sacred object. The ducal family's sacred object is the Spear of Aries. Swordsmanship is just the basic requirement, so we must keep training. After Yes finished speaking, he went to store his sword, while the usually optimistic Andy became gloomy, because he believed his brother would soon resonate with the sacred object. Since childhood, everyone had high expectations for brother. So Andy, with his ordinary talents, wasn't as carefree as he appeared. Just then, Sir Kaz in charge of security arrived. Lonnie just politely curtsied, instantly melting the heart of this tough man. And the man brought Andy's new playmate. It was Lowen, the boy who got beaten up. Here it comes. The sweet scene of 3 boys and 1 girl is coming. The Duke's second son has a new playmate, but he was clearly unhappy, because having Lolo alone was enough. But when Lowen said he came to be a playmate and practice partner, his attitude changed instantly. "So you're here to learn swordsmanship first. You should have said that earlier. Let me be your special teacher." "Who's teaching who?" Andy protested loudly when questioned by his brother. "Of course I'll teach him. I'm better than brother at least. Brother's just good himself. He has no talent for teaching." Yes remained expressionless. He directly gave a super strong forehead flick, sending his brother flying to the ground. The two played and fought, showing their closeness. Seeing this, Lowen took Lonnie to sit aside. Sir Kaz watched the 4 adorable children, showing a satisfied fatherly smile. Soon it was time for Yes to leave. Lonnie sobbed reluctantly. The boy wiped his sister's tears with a handkerchief and told her to have fun at home. He'll be back soon. Afterwards, Lonnie was sat alone in her room. Ein came in with desserts, saying, "Eating this will make you feel better." Indeed, children's emotions change so easily. She happily started eating. "Young master, yes, said you would like this chocolate." "Indeed, I feel much better." Ein felt much more relieved seeing this. Lonnie hesitantly asked, "Why are you so kind to me?" Ein paused for a second, then enthusiastically expressed her affection. "When I first saw you, I was reminded of my sister. She was a very well-behaved child like you, miss. But please don't be like her, because heaven takes good children away too early." Lonnie empathized and was about to cry. "I also had a very good friend who passed away early. That's why I want to become a doctor, to help those good children." I was moved by her kindness on the spot, encouraging her to start studying hard from now on. However, in the next second, she pointed to the door and said the same thing as the Duke. "Go out now." For children, playing outside is the best learning. At this moment, the Duke looked at Lonnie thoughtfully. They had already decided to adopt. But before that, they needed to confirm if her birth parents were still alive. According to the orphanage director, when that person entrusted the child to them, they said she was a noble child and should be well cared for. So who exactly was Lonnie's true identity? The orphanage girl finally started learning. Just a few days ago, the Duchess asked her friend Lady Prolin to teach Lonnie, and hoped she could set a slower pace for the lessons, not only to avoid discouraging the child, but also to leave more time for Lonnie to play outdoors. However, Lonnie was very serious. Her learning enthusiasm was high, carefully copying what the teacher wrote. Her adorable appearance was very endearing. Just as the teacher was about to teach her other people's names, Lonnie asked with a blush, "Could you teach me Brother Yes' name first?" The teacher gladly agreed, and directly wrote out his full name. Lonnie stared at the paper with her heart racing, clearly looking like a lovesick young girl. The teacher saw through her thoughts immediately. However, since the Duchess was about to adopt her, their path ahead might be a bit rocky. Soon came Lonnie's first time going out. The maid told her they were going to buy things for Brother Andy today. Lonnie was very excited about this outing, and so was I. But she was happy because she could have a thorough dress-up session. Why do we need to do this? Because this is a memorable first outing. I have many styles I want Miss to try. This is so exciting. Let's begin. After a while, the Duke and the others waited at the door. Anna just finished preparing Lonnie. Andy rushed in eagerly. The moment they saw the girl, everyone was stunned. "She's so cute." Lolo was already cute, but today she's even more adorable. Lonnie happily thanked her brother, and Andy quoted what he had just learned from a novel. "My sister. I don't care about anyone else." Everyone was amused. The Duke picked up Lonnie. The four of them set off towards the village. On the way, the girl was speechless at the sights before her. Andy proudly stated there would be many more interesting things in the future. Lonnie responded with genuine happiness. This pleased the Duke very much. The three exchanged knowing glances. Actually, today's shopping trip was the Duchess's idea. In the mansion, nothing belonged to Lonnie personally. She had been using things they had prepared for their future daughter. That's why the maids thought Lonnie would leave soon. So this trip was specifically to shop for Lonnie. But the girl was too cautious. So to prevent her from refusing, they lied about shopping for Andy. Then they could buy her lots of things under the pretext of matching outfits. Everything was going according to plan. The girl's first outing to choose clothes for her brother turned into everyone focusing on her instead. Soon they brought over piles of items. This scene really startled her. At this point, the Duke appeared to stop Andy and his wife's behavior, saying they would frighten Lolo this way. Yet he himself pulled out a chosen dress, seriously stating Lolo would prefer this. The girl was completely dizzy, unable to understand what was happening. She just stood there holding a ribbon, lost in thought. The Duchess caringly asked if there was nothing she liked. Lonnie had to voice her confusion. "Weren't we here to buy things for brother? This doesn't seem suitable for him." Andy overheard this nearby. He hurriedly explained they were always together, so anything that looked good on Lolo, he would like. Unexpectedly, Lonnie pulled out a colorful ribbon, saying she felt it would suit him. Andy completely fell apart inside, but could only reluctantly accept it. Seeing this, the Duke began his plan. Since Andy has found something suitable, let's pick something for Lolo too. Lonnie thought she already had plenty, so she wanted to decline. Andy immediately clung to her. "I want to match outfits with Lolo. That way everyone will know Lolo is my sister. Even so, Lonnie still looked very hesitant. At this point, the Duke directly bought out the entire store. Since we don't know what you like, we have to do this. If you tell us what you like, we'll just buy that instead. Lonnie was truly shocked by this extravagant gesture, but she still kept her head down without any response. The observant Andy noticed his sister kept staring at some shoes, so he spoke up for her. Meeting the expectant gazes of the three, Lonnie bravely expressed her liking. However, the Duke secretly told the clerk, "Pack all the clothes that match these shoes, but don't let the child know." The clerk secretly rejoiced at this windfall. Soon Lonnie came out wearing her new shoes. They headed to the bustling market. The dazzling array of goods was absolutely delightful. Andy excitedly pulled Lonnie along as they ran, but they suddenly encountered a galloping carriage. Fortunately, it only passed by, and neither was hurt. The Duke angrily ordered Andy, "Run around again, and you're out." But just then, Lonnie's ribbon was blown away by the wind. She hurriedly chased after it, but the three behind her didn't notice. The girl chased it into a small alley. Suddenly, a boy's voice came from behind. "Are you looking for this? Who was this blonde boy who just appeared?" The girl had chased the ribbon at lightning speed. She encountered a blonde boy. Because he was so cute, the boy deliberately held the ribbon high. Lonnie's dazed expression at this made him laugh. "Here, take it." Seeing Lonnie's hesitation, the boy teased, "Do you want to stay with me longer? Is that why you won't take it?" Lonnie quickly grabbed it. I'm just joking, Miss Lonnie. You just reminded me of my sister." Clearly the boy knew her, as Lonnie hadn't mentioned her name. The boy avoided eye contact, said nothing more, and simply pointed out the way back. Then he disappeared. Though puzzled by the boy's identity, Lonnie hurried back. The Duke saw her and immediately rushed over, checking if she was hurt. The Duchess hugged her tightly, concerned about her condition. Andy even started crying, blaming himself for not protecting her. This genuine warmth deeply moved Lonnie. After returning, Anne asked how she felt about her first outing. Lonnie happily showed off the shoes the Duke bought her and told about meeting the blonde boy. Anne suggested he might have been an elf. Legend says elves appear to help children in trouble. The innocent Lonnie believed it immediately. After all, the boy did look very much like an elf. However, at that moment she thought of Brother Yes, thinking Brother Yes was still more handsome. Just then, Butler Grandpa knocked and entered, saying visitors had come wanting to see Lonnie. It was Crown Prince Maris and his family. Princess Bianca asked curiously, "Is that child even cuter than me?" And he proudly replied, "Of course. When you see her, you'll be shocked." The princess still looked completely unconvinced. However, the moment she saw Lonnie next, she immediately ran over, chattering excitedly around Lonnie. "Oh my God, are you a doll? Or an angel? Even your hands are like a baby's. How is this possible? I used to be this small and cute too." Though she was only a year older than Lonnie. "Your name is Lola, right? You can call me BB." Lonnie looked completely confused. Butler Grandpa said the Crown Prince's family had come, so this girl before her must be a real princess. It was truly unbelievable. Now the two childish ones began fighting over Lonnie. And then the long-absent prince arrived. The boy was actually the elf she had met in the alley earlier that day. "Miss Lonnie, you can call me Henry." The girl, with her extremely cute appearance, had captured the hearts of both princess and prince. She just drew a cartoon portrait, and the princess absolutely loved it, repeatedly praising both the drawing and the artist as adorable. The shy Lonnie gathered her courage and said the princess was very cute too. The two went back and forth like this. The teacher, watching their interaction, was quite pleased. Although the princess's presence slowed down the lesson progress, Lonnie's face showed many more smiles. Then Lonnie noticed the doll on the princess's lap. After getting permission, she held it and touched it all over. The lifelike appearance and soft texture were irresistible. "Lolo, don't you have dolls? Ask the Duke to buy you some. He can buy you 100 of them." Though Lonnie liked them, she was too shy to express it. So the princess offered to help ask, which frightened Lonnie into repeatedly refusing. Just then, the prince knocked and entered, looking very serious. He said his sister was disturbing Lonnie's lesson again, though he was doing the same. The teacher secretly sighed, realizing today's lesson was completely derailed. Lomi nervously stood up and curtsied, but the prince smiled and told her to relax. They seemed quite familiar with each other. Though appearing calm, his ears were completely red. Bianca instantly understood. She leaned in with a mischievous grin. Clearly, her brother had fallen in love. Only Lonnie remained clueless, still smiling innocently. Actually, Henry had already heard about Lonnie from Andy's letters. He just didn't expect her to be even cuter than described. I heard you're taking music lessons. Yes, I'm learning musical notes. To learn well, you need to listen to good music. Perhaps I can help you. Lonnie was very supportive, and Bianca proudly said her brother was excellent at piano. Sure enough, melodious piano music began the next moment. It was so beautiful it made her heart leap. Love-struck, Lonnie thought of Brother Yes again, though she felt something was different. Before she could collect her thoughts, the music had ended. The prince generously offered he could send his own teacher to teach her. He had been teaching the royal family for years and would surely be very helpful. However, this wasn't free. And so when Andy pushed open the door, this was the scene he encountered. Henry, how dare you touch Lolo without my permission? Only I can touch Lolo's face. Their quarreling made Bianca laugh heartily. Then the three childish ones began fighting over Lonnie. That evening, Lonnie was about to tell the madam about the prince's offer to send a teacher, but she happened to overhear their conversation. It seemed the royal family's divine power was reaching its peak. They might target the crown prince, and the culprit was Countess Castor. Lonnie suddenly felt something strange in her heart, so she opened the door and asked, "Who is this Countess Castor you just mentioned?" She was an orphan with no relatives, yet hearing Countess Castor for the first time made her heart ache inexplicably. So she curiously asked who Castor was, but received an unexpected answer. She is the emperor's mistress, and also the actual power holder in the palace. To put her own son in the crown prince position, she would stop at nothing. The Duchess, not wanting Lonnie to learn about such unpleasant matters too early, quickly ended the conversation. "Did you come here for something?" "Oh right, Prince Henry said he'd send a music teacher to teach me. He mentioned the teacher had taught the princess before." "Did he mention the teacher's name?" "I think it started with an A." However, there were too many names starting with A, so she accidentally revealed key information. The next day, Andy and the prince began a duel. They made a bet on the outcome of this match. After several rounds, Andy was defeated. Levan thoughtfully brought towels for both of them. Andy recalled their recent interactions and thought she was still a very kind person. Just then, Lonnie and the princess arrived. Everyone reacted enthusiastically. Andy noticed Levan's eyes were sparkling, looking very happy. Could this guy like Lolo? Absolutely not. My sister can only be mine. So he quickly rushed forward to block. Seeing his sister looking a bit down, he decided to show off his recent training results. He took up his sword stance, then swung with force. The sword's energy instantly swept up scattered leaves. Lolo praised him for being amazing, then quickly turned to ask the princess what she thought. Her expression clearly showed she was impressed. Andy happily ran towards his sister, but Henry stopped him early. "Have you forgotten our bet? Today I have the rights to Maroni's cheeks." So that's what their duel was about. Andy felt immediately humiliated, but still wanted to cheat. Lolo's face belongs to Lolo. Only she can decide who can touch it. "Didn't you say yesterday we needed your permission?" "I don't care, that's all invalid now. Lolo, you tell us whose face is it?" Faced with three expectant gazes, who would Lonnie choose? Because she was just too cute. Three handsome boys competing for the privilege to touch her cheeks. Lonnie became extremely nervous when suddenly put on the spot. The prince smiled and told her not to worry. "If you don't want me to, I absolutely won't touch you." Andy confidently thought Lonnie would definitely choose him. After all, he was her brother. The prince also believed he would be chosen, since he had always maintained a cool image. Even Levan couldn't help but harbor a small hope. This scene was just like an ancient emperor choosing his consort. Bianca was overjoyed on the side. Who wouldn't want to ship couples in such a romantic novel scenario? Just then, the Duke appeared. Since the knight's training was about to begin, they needed to return to the mansion. This was exactly the savior she needed. Lonnie tugged at the Duke's pants. Gathering her courage, she said, "Please be the owner of my cheeks. Duke can touch my face anytime." The two boys were instantly crushed. The Duke, unaware of the situation, smiled and picked her up. "Though I don't know what game you're playing, I'm happy you chose me." Then they walked inside, chatting and laughing. The princess consoled her brother not to be discouraged. After all, the Duke was indeed more handsome. Well, that didn't help console him at all. Soon came the day of parting. Everyone reluctantly said their goodbyes. Bianca was puzzled. Why be so sad when they would meet again? Lonnie eagerly confirmed with the princess. "You mean we can meet again, right?" "Of course, if you're busy, we don't have to. I really enjoyed the time I spent with the princess." Bianca happily hugged her. saying they were now friends and must meet often to play together. Henry smiled watching this scene. The still childish Andy thought he was coveting Lolo's cheeks, but actually he was interested in Lolo herself. So he took out a carefully prepared pink ribbon, placed it in Lonnie's hand, and promised to bring an even better gift next time they met. Then the carriage departed. Lonnie suddenly felt a bit lost. The Duchess comforted her not to be too sad. "You'll meet again soon." For the first time, Lonnie actively expressed her true feelings, expressing her reluctance to part with the princess and prince. "It's okay. Just tell me when you miss the princess. We can go see her together." Lonnie was grateful to have met such a wonderful family, so she stood up and curtsied, thanking them for making every day of her life so happy. The three were stunned. The Duchess particularly felt her sister was right. Lonnie might truly possess a divine charm that made everyone find her adorable. Just then, the butler rushed in with urgent news. There was a woman at the door, claiming to be Miss Lonnie's birth mother. The Duke was planning to adopt the girl from the orphanage, but now, a woman claiming to be her birth mother had appeared. The Duke felt something was suspicious about this, and the Duchess was very distressed. If she had some unavoidable circumstances, then Lonnie would understand and leave with her mother. Just thinking about it broke her heart. The Duke noticed his wife's concerns, but the woman's identity wasn't confirmed yet. Everything would be discussed after meeting her. So the Duke ordered his subordinates to investigate the truth quickly while he received the guest. Meanwhile, the Duchess came to the room, planning to have a private talk with Lonnie. After sending her son out, she asked Lonnie if she remembered what her birth mother looked like. After learning she was too young to remember, the Duchess still told her about her mother's arrival. The sudden news was hard for Lonnie to accept, but they still needed to verify if she was genuine. "Besides your name at the orphanage, do you have any other names?" The girl couldn't remember anything. She only knew her mother had left her at the orphanage. Meanwhile, the Duke was in the reception room. The woman introduced herself as Louisa Bennet and said Lonnie was originally called Chloe, a name given by her deceased husband. Due to extreme hardship, she had to leave her at the orphanage. They gave her a similar name, Lonnie. She thought the orphanage was reliable, but didn't expect the director to be so vicious. "When I went to find my child later, I heard she was taken away. You can't imagine how surprised I was. Someone of your high status adopting a child born to someone as lowly as me, and even willing to support her. I'm truly grateful." The woman's expression was suspicious, but the Duke considered their matching hair color and her knowledge of the orphanage. He thought she might really be Lonnie's birth mother, but coming to claim her child only after hearing about the Duke's support seemed too opportunistic. The Duke thought that even if she was the birth mother, there was no need to return the child. But if Lonnie wanted to live with her mother, he had no right to stop her. Just then, the Duchess brought Lonnie in. The woman immediately rushed forward and hugged the child tightly. Lonnie froze in shock. A woman appearing out of nowhere, claiming to be the Duke's adopted daughter's birth mother, immediately rushed to embrace her. Lonnie stood there stunned. The Duchess quickly pulled the woman away. "Can't you see you frightened the child? Even if you're her birth mother, please don't touch her so casually." The Duke gently asked Lonnie if she had any memory of the name Chloe, but Lonnie couldn't remember anything. The woman broke down crying, sincerely apologizing to Lonnie. "I'm sorry mother came so late." Lonnie thought meeting her mother would make her happy, but her current feelings were like facing the orphanage director, frightening. The Duke temporarily arranged for them to stay in the guest room and sent the shocked Lonnie to rest. Lonnie's mind was filled with sadness about leaving this place. Andy, hearing the news, rushed to ask, "Are you really leaving? If she really is your birth mother, will you leave here and return to her side?" Lonnie didn't know how to answer. The next moment, Andy was caught by Sir Kaz. It was still training time. Andy had just sneaked out. He struggled on his back, begging Lolo not to leave. This made Lonnie even more afraid. Once she left this place, she would never see Brother Andy again. The Duke and Duchess, Ein the teacher, and Brother Yes. Thinking of them, she couldn't help but cry. I just hoped she could be happy. Following her own heart would be fine. Lonnie realized she only felt reluctant to leave this place. She hadn't thought about her mother at all. And whenever she thought about possibly living with her mother, she felt dizzy and trembled. Just then, Levan suddenly appeared. The Duke had sent him to protect her, but Lonnie declined, saying she might leave this place soon anyway. But Levan firmly stated that wherever Lonnie went, he would follow. Meanwhile, in the guest room, the woman's maid was marveling at the Duke's mansion's luxury. Louisa suddenly smirked. It seems that child doesn't remember anything from her childhood. She doesn't even remember her mother. How pitiful. I'll try my best to make her accept me as her mother. Was she really Lonnie's birth mother? The woman, with her pink long hair, claimed to be the Duke's adopted daughter's birth mother. But actually, she had visited the orphanage a few days ago. She had gotten close to the children using candies and secretly inquired about Lonnie's past. Upon learning that she always hid alone, she guessed it must have been to hide her identity as a girl. Soon, the first formal meal began. The woman had never seen such a lavish meal and started eating greedily without manners, like a starving ghost. Meanwhile, Andy, as always, thoughtfully cut up his sister's favorite food. The Duke also passed her the newest dishes. Even the Duchess had prepared her favorite dessert. The woman then realized she had slipped up. She hurriedly pushed the food in front of her, explaining this was her first time eating such delicious food. That's why she acted this way. She would definitely make it up to her later. These words made the Duke and Duchess very sad, feeling they might lose Lonnie at any moment. Just then, the butler came saying there was urgent news to report. Only 3 people remained in the vast dining room. Andy was afraid his sister would leave soon, so he decided to spend more time playing together while she was still here. He pulled her outside, while the so-called mother continued gorging herself, not sparing them a single glance. Meanwhile, the Duke saw the recent investigation report. The woman's identity matched what she had claimed. Strangely, it stated she had visited the orphanage before, saying she wanted to adopt a child. So she likely used adoption as an excuse to gather information about Lonnie, because back then, the director had said the person who brought the child claimed she was of noble birth. Yet this woman repeatedly called herself lowly. The Duke felt very guilty. He shouldn't have let them meet so hastily. In the end, it was Lonnie who got hurt. Then he suddenly remembered the children were still with that woman. He quickly ordered the knights to apprehend the 2 women. At this time, the woman pretending to be a maid was angry about missing breakfast at the Duke's mansion. But now all they needed to do was trick Lonnie into coming with them. It turned out he was kicked out before for abusing Lonnie. It was your sister Beth. The 2 wicked people made a plan for revenge. They found Louisa, who looked similar, paid her a large sum to act along. He had already planned that after making a fortune, he would abandon Lonnie at an unknown orphanage. However, he then encountered the searching guards. Obviously, the Duke had discovered something. Just then, Louisa appeared, still gloating about how delicious breakfast was. Beth immediately grabbed him and ran outside. The Duke learned they failed to catch the 2. With a grim face, he ordered them to intensify the search. Moreover, a commoner couldn't be so familiar with the mansion. There must be an accomplice inside. These words terrified the 2, so they decided to target Lonnie. At this time, the 2 children were playing on the lawn. Andy was very sad thinking about his sister leaving, but he couldn't stop her from leaving with her birth mother. You can come back to play anytime. I'll be waiting for you. The 2 hugged and cried together. Just then, the 2 evil women appeared. Louisa used wanting to talk privately as an excuse. She forced a smile and opened her arms to Lonnie. Chloe, come to mother. The woman had impersonated the Duke's adopted daughter's birth mother for money. After being discovered, she immediately found the girl and played on her emotions. Though Andy was reluctant, he felt he couldn't prevent their mother-daughter reunion. So after saying a few words, he turned and left. Seeing Lonnie's hesitation, the woman immediately used emotional manipulation. I know I don't deserve to be a mother, but could you give me another chance? I promise I'll do my best to make up for everything. Lonnie was immediately moved. She cried and rushed into her mother's arms. But when she touched the woman, she felt a numbing pain, like being pricked by a needle, and black smoke appeared behind her mother. So she backed away in fear. Just then, searching sounds came from afar. The woman instantly revealed her vicious face. Just before she could touch Lonnie, Levan appeared heroically in front of her. Andy, who had just left, also returned to check the situation. Soon, the woman was arrested by the knights. The Duke held Lonnie lovingly in his arms, softly comforting her that it was just a nightmare. Sleep well, everything will be fine. Meanwhile, the 2 women were blaming each other, shifting responsibility. Lonnie finally broke down, crying uncontrollably. That night, she developed a high fever. The Duke and Duchess immediately called for the family doctor. The Duchess was so worried she cried. Lonnie felt warmth seeing the scene before her. Brother Andy must be worried about her too, and Brother Yes as well. With these thoughts, she gradually fell asleep. When she opened her eyes again, surprisingly, Brother Yes, who was away studying, appeared before her. The girl sat up in shock. It turned out Yes learned about Lonnie's situation from the Duchess's letter, so he rushed back immediately. He took the porridge from beside, saying, "You probably don't have much strength now. Let me feed you." Lonnie was very embarrassed and quickly said she had recovered. She could eat by herself. Although the mother was fake, meeting so many good people made her feel very fortunate. Soon Lonnie recovered her health. They all played happily together like before. Yes also joined them after sword practice. This time he was it for hide and seek. Andy pulled Levan away and disappeared. Lonnie was nervous and didn't know what to do. Then she remembered Levan had hidden under the sofa earlier, so she quickly tried to crawl under it, but unexpectedly got caught on something. Yes turned and immediately spotted Lonnie. He quickly went to help her get unstuck. Her adorable appearance made Yes laugh. This made Lonnie so embarrassed that tears came out. "Sorry, you're just too cute." Hearing Brother Yes praise made Lonnie's heart flutter, so she very seriously said, "Brother Yes, I really like you." The girl confessed loudly to her brother. Brother gently patted her head and also expressed his affection. At this time, the two who had hidden well heard Lonnie's loud shout and quickly ran out. But due to the game rules, they were caught red-handed. The innocent Andy was only focused on arguing with his brother about what just happened, while the attentive Levan noticed the dejected girl on the ground and quickly helped her up. Following the girl's gaze, he discovered a secret, that the girl liked Yes. Although his heart was very sad, as long as he could see Lonnie happy, he would be content. However, happy days always pass quickly. Yes eventually had to return to the academy to continue studying. Lonnie became very gloomy. She didn't even have the appetite for her favorite cupcakes. The Duchess thought she hadn't recovered and worriedly asked her to go rest. Hearing this, Lonnie quickly started eating big bites. "I'm fine. The cake is delicious." The Duke and Duchess apologized again for this incident. "We're sorry you had to go through this. We want to become your real family. You can rely on us anytime. So, would you like to be our daughter?" Lonnie was very conflicted inside. She knew the Duke's family were all good people. Meeting them was a blessing, and she could be happy forever with them. But after careful thought, she still declined. "I'm sorry, but I still want to wait for my mother. Although I can't remember what she looks like, and I don't know why she sent me to the orphanage. But I want to see her again, to get clear answers about everything." The Duke and Duchess showed complete understanding. They embraced Lonnie, saying, "You don't need to apologize. Tell us when you're ready, after you've resolved your feelings." As Lonnie felt their warm embrace, a few days later, the Duchess suggested hosting a tea party. After all, Lonnie didn't have many friends her age yet, but Lonnie was afraid of meeting someone like Lady Lydia again, making Brother Andy defend her, so she became very hesitant. The Duchess comforted her, saying she could invite whoever she wanted to the tea party, like Princess Bibi. Lonnie felt a little hopeful again. Maybe she could meet gentle friends like the princess. So, as if making up her mind, she expressed her desire to attend the tea party. Soon, the day of the tea party arrived. Lonnie was beautifully dressed up, looking even more adorable than ever. With a nervous yet excited heart, would she be able to make friends today? Many friends asked where to find the cute Lonnie. Find this section. Enter Lolo Reads Korean Manga completely. Click to read for free. The Duchess hosted a tea party for her adopted daughter. But unexpectedly, it threw the girl into a storm. Today was the day of the tea party. The place was decorated beautifully. Lonnie could hardly believe how grand it was, so she sincerely expressed her gratitude to the Duchess. Just then, Levan suddenly appeared. He was also carefully dressed today, looking even more handsome than usual. Originally, the Duchess wanted to choose a lively, cute girl as company, but the Duke thought Levan would be better. Not only was he familiar with Lonnie, but he had also attended many social events. Indeed, Levan's presence helped Lonnie relax her nervous feelings. Suddenly, a maid brought a letter. It turned out Princess Bianca had developed a high fever yesterday. Although she was very much looking forward to this meeting, she couldn't get up, so she couldn't come today. The Duchess was very worried, but the tea party had already begun, and canceling now was impossible. Lonnie indeed showed signs of wanting to withdraw, but she didn't want to waste the Duchess's kindness. so she actively said she was fine. Plus, Levan was there, so there was no need to worry. The Duchess felt relieved and told her if she felt uncomfortable at any point, she could leave early. And so the tea party began. The guests were Agnes from the Earl's family and Sylvia from the Viscount's family. After they introduced themselves, the Duchess greeted them and left. Just as the three sat down, Agnes began expressing her envy, saying, "I heard the Duke's family is supporting you. Even your dress is so beautiful." However, Sylvia suddenly started talking about their tea. Surprisingly, it was the finest tea from Mount Balin. But clearly, Lonnie knew nothing about it. This drew Sylvia's disapproval. A fallen noble getting to enjoy such fine resources. How unfair. Then she noticed Levan beside them. She asked maliciously, "Is he assigned by the Duke's house to serve you? Did you choose him because he's handsome?" Lonnie stammered, not knowing how to explain. After all, Levan wasn't just her companion. Seeing this, Sylvia smiled maliciously. "Perhaps there's something we shouldn't know about?" Before she could finish, Levan stepped in to defend. "I apologize for interrupting, but I chose the young lady." An orphanage girl, at her first noble ladies' tea party, was being bullied by the ill-intentioned Viscount's daughter. Levan boldly stood up for her, saying he had decided to dedicate everything to her. Then, to the panicked Lonnie, he gave a reassuring smile. Sylvia, who didn't get her way, was seething with anger. Why would such an excellent boy be Lonnie's companion, while my attendant is so inferior? How much? I can pay more than she does. Levan looked at her as if she were a fool. Lonnie hurriedly explained that Levan wasn't that kind of person. However, Sylvia clearly wouldn't let it go. Just then, Lady Rolana of the Duke's household told her she was from one of the Empire's only 3 great ducal families, the only daughter of the Alyssa family. Despite her young age, she showed great wisdom. It was rumored she would become the queen of social circles. The Duchess had invited her out of necessity, unknown whether it would be a blessing or curse for Lonnie. At that moment, Lonnie offered her cream puff to Rolana. Fortunately, it wasn't rejected. This gave her more confidence. Perhaps they could become friends. This made Sylvia even angrier. How dare she get to invite the noble Lady Rolana? Just then, Agnes suddenly asked, "My mother heard from Viscount Rodden that the Duke brought you back for some purpose, but he didn't say what it was. So what exactly is it?" Lonnie knew her orphan status had been hidden, so she couldn't directly tell the truth. But Sylvia, with ill intentions, began to probe, implying the Duke had ulterior motives for bringing Lonnie back. Lonnie could sense from Sylvia a very unpleasant aura, just like that fake mother from before. Don't you know either, Lonnie? How could she not know? After all, they're close enough to hold such a tea party. Though Lonnie didn't understand what they were implying, she could tell they were insulting the Duke. She absolutely wouldn't allow this. So she gathered her courage and firmly objected. "Stop it, Sylvia. The Duke isn't that kind of person." However, Rolana, who had been silent until now, suddenly laughed. How interesting. Why not let her continue? How boring would the tea party be without such topics? A timid girl bravely standing up to defend the Duke, claiming he's a good person. Don't let the young lady speak ill of her. However, the court Lady Rolana indicated this was interesting, gesturing for her to continue. Sylvia was overjoyed, thinking this was a perfect opportunity to connect with the Duke's daughter, and a chance to eliminate the proud and arrogant Lonnie. "I heard the Duke himself likes children. That's why he used sponsorship as an excuse to bring them in. I also heard those children disappeared," Lonnie angrily retorted. "The Duke is absolutely not that kind of person." Sylvia seized the opportunity to act innocent, trying to gain favor. Unexpectedly, Rolana directly refuted. The rumors must be wrong. The Duke would never do such things. Besides, Viscountess Rodden wouldn't spread such rumors carelessly. Rolana knew about the Duke's refusal to loan money to Viscountess Rodden. Unexpectedly, this led to such slander. Given this situation, Sylvia and Agnes, shouldn't you apologize to Lonnie? The Count's daughter immediately expressed sincere apologies to Lonnie, while Sylvia was furious, until the court lady reminded her again. She reluctantly went through the motions. Lonnie finally beamed with joy. If you saw him in person, you would definitely like the Duke too. Although he seems scary at first, he's actually a very gentle person. Agnes became excited immediately, hoping to visit Lonnie's house and meet young Master Yes. "If you invite us, I'll invite you too." The three happily made a pinky promise together. Lonnie was overjoyed, feeling that Rolana was like the princess, both good people. In her innocence, she didn't hold a grudge when Sylvia invited her to join. And to please court Lady Rolana, despite her inner displeasure, she smiled and agreed. Unexpectedly, Rolana's strange look startled her. She blamed everything on Lonnie from the bottom of her heart, but still smiled as she joined them. However, when her hand was placed on top, Lonnie suddenly felt a sharp pain. The atmosphere suddenly became very awkward. What was going on? The girl adopted from the orphanage by the Duke had royal blood. The first tea party finally ended successfully. Lonnie happily told Ein she made 3 friends. Court Lady Rolana was excellent in every way. Agnes was quite curious. And Sylvia. Lonnie suddenly paused, feeling she gave off a strange aura. But the girl didn't think much of it, assuming she was just in a bad mood. To avoid worrying Ein, she didn't mention any of the unpleasant things. However, just as she was about to go to sleep, she suddenly felt a pain and fainted, then developed a high fever again. Everyone anxiously stayed by her side, and Andy was crying heavily with worry. "I can't live without Lolo. If you cure Lolo, I'll do anything." The family doctor was amused by this scene and started joking with the child. "Anything? Then can I make Miss Lolo my little sister and take her with me?" Seeing Andy genuinely scared, the doctor quickly explained it was just a joke and the young lady was fine, just that she might not be ready for tea parties yet. The Duchess felt somewhat guilty. She had been too hasty. She had fallen ill before during the fake mother incident, but Lonnie's constitution seemed somewhat weak. The Duchess suddenly remembered when she was her age, she had similar experiences due to divine power. And the family doctor said Lonnie's recovery was faster than normal. Could Lonnie also possess divine power? That would mean Lonnie has royal blood. The next day, Lonnie had completely recovered. The 2 little ones played happily on the lawn. Then the Duchess suddenly appeared, saying they should all have afternoon tea together to celebrate Lonnie's recovery. Then she led Andy away. The Duchess decided to confirm whether Lonnie truly possessed divine power. "Child, I have something to ask you. Have you ever sensed any strange auras?" The Duchess suspected the adopted child was a royal princess and wanted to confirm if she had divine power. So she asked if she had sensed strange auras in special situations. Lonnie indeed had such experiences, worried that something was wrong with her and would trouble the Duke and Duchess. "It's not like that. I'm just worried if you're feeling unwell anywhere." Hearing this, Lonnie felt relieved and explained her unusual experiences. "It was like that when I met the fake mother and Sylvia. Even when they were smiling, even when they were being nice to me, there was still a strange feeling. It even made me feel sick." This was indeed an important point, but based on this alone, they couldn't confirm it was divine power. Perhaps she was just more sensitive than ordinary children. To know for sure, they would need to release divine power into her body. But if the types of divine power were different, they would clash and put her in danger. So the Duchess was unwilling to do this. Perhaps they could think of other safer methods. The next day, the attendant brought what the Duke had requested, but judging by his expression, it wasn't what he had expected. Just then, Lonnie suddenly appeared. The Duke hurriedly hid the item like a thief and greeted the child with a smile. "I've been so busy with official duties, I haven't had time to see you." Lonnie immediately curtsied with a bright smile. "Duke, are you well?" Duke on Kong became sad immediately. Lolo had become so formal with him, and Andy burst out laughing because no one at home greeted people like that. Lonnie's face turned bright red with embarrassment. This was the etiquette she learned from the princess. Who would have thought it would turn into such a mix-up? And he taught her step by step how to properly greet people at home. The Duke was completely charmed by this scene. "Where are you two going?" After learning they were going to meet the princess and prince, the Duke smiled and told them to have fun. Suddenly he remembered something very urgent. He grabbed Andy. "You haven't forgotten about that incident, have you?" They were referring to when the prince kissed Lonnie's hand last time. Father and son immediately made up their minds. This kind of thing absolutely must not happen again. On her first visit to the palace, the girl unexpectedly learned about divine power. Just now, Lonnie and Andy arrived at the palace garden. The princess prepared cookies to apologize for missing the tea party. Lonnie didn't mind at all and sincerely said it was fine. The foodie Andy was about to grab the delicious cookies, but was stopped by Bianca on the spot. The two friendly rivals argued, neither willing to back down. Prince Henry asked how the tea party went and if she made any close friends. Lonnie talked endlessly about this, saying she made 3 new friends. There were Lorena, Agnes, and Sylvia. It was really fortunate to attend the tea party. Bianca was surprised that even the palace made Lorena went. After all, attending a tea party at the Duke's mansion could even rise to a political level. Henry noticed Lonnie was all smiles, much more cheerful than before. "Lolo, try these cookies. They're super delicious." Just as Lonnie was about to take the cookie, Andy suddenly snatched it away with one bite. Because of the last incident, he decided to never give Henry a chance to get close to Lolo. The princess then asked what game they wanted to play today. Lonnie thought for a moment. Smiling, she said she wanted to play house. Henry immediately suggested Lolo be the mother. "I'll be the father." Andy also competed, fighting to be the father. The two fought, neither willing to give in. Seeing this, Lonnie quickly called out, "I have a good idea," and she suggested letting Erwin be the father. The two still argued intensely about who would be the brother. Only Erwin silently thought to himself, "What are they doing? Don't they all know family members can't marry each other?" Lonnie, who grew up without family or friends, didn't know about this. Except for the royal family, where half-siblings could marry, marriage between other family relations wasn't allowed. Legend had it that in the age when divine power was common, noble families would adopt children with divine power and have them marry into the family to obtain divine power. Later, clear laws were established to prevent this practice. Lonnie was heartbroken. This meant that becoming family with the Duke meant she couldn't marry Brother Yes. But how do you know if someone has divine power? Bianca mocked Andy's ignorance. Then she naturally took Lonnie's hand to demonstrate. Like this, release divine power into the body. If there's no divine power, you won't feel anything. However, the next second, a tingling electric current passed through their hands. Bianca was completely stunned. Then she asked Lolo in disbelief, "Do you have divine power?" The girl's possession of divine power was discovered. The princess quickly reported this to the Duchess. The Duchess had actually suspected this already. Now, when the princess accidentally injected pure divine power into Lonnie, there was a resonance between them. This meant that Lonnie likely possessed the same royal divine power. The Duke hoped the girl wouldn't tell others yet. As for the reasons that followed, he couldn't hear them clearly, just feeling very happy. Having special divine power, just like Brother Yes, made her feel closer to him. So she promised not to tell anyone. Then she left the room smiling. A few days later, Lonnie received an invitation from Agnes. While looking forward to the gathering, she wondered what gift to bring. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew around her and carried away the letter in her hand. Lonnie hurriedly chased after it and arrived at a dark, scary cave. Even so, she gathered her courage and walked in. This didn't look like a basement at all, but rather had a solemn and dignified atmosphere. Suddenly, a sword appeared before her. An incredibly strong aura emanated from it, as if it was calling to her. Just as Lonnie was about to reach for it, she heard Brother Yes' voice from behind. "Lolo, what are you doing here?" Lonnie told the truth. She came in looking for the invitation. Then she couldn't help but ask about the sword. Yes noticed her curiosity and began explaining. "This is the family's divine artifact, the Spear of Aries. It looks like an arrow, but once divine power is injected, it transforms into a spear." Although Yes wanted to demonstrate, he couldn't do it yet, because to inherit this divine artifact, one must completely erase the spiritual power of the previous owner's imprint. After clearing it, one must imprint their own divine power and assimilate it into the divine artifact. Only after completing this step can one truly become the artifact's master. But I'm still far from that. Seeing Brother Yes looking somewhat dejected, Lonnie quickly affirmed with determination, "I believe you can definitely do it, so don't force yourself too much." At this moment, Yes had already decided that to protect Lonnie, he must secure his position as the next family head. Time passed quickly. On the day of the gathering, the Duke and Duchess personally saw Lonnie off. Whether it was the reportedly frightening Duke speaking gently to her, or this luxurious farewell procession, even real palace maids didn't receive such treatment. This aroused Sylvia's jealousy, but she smirked maliciously where no one could see. Halfway through the carriage ride, Sylvia suddenly said she needed to relieve herself. Then she ran into the small forest alone. Erwin felt something was very strange and was about to get off to check the surroundings. The next second, an arrow shot towards Lonnie Phoebus. Thousands of arrows flew towards the carriage, instantly piercing all doors and windows. Young Lonnie trembled in fear, while Levan calmly suggested leaving the carriage. At this moment, several burly men emerged from the grass. The soldiers' attention was drawn to them, but there was still someone in the grass, secretly shooting an arrow at the horse's rear. The horse immediately jumped in pain. The carriage instantly lost its balance. Just as the carriage was about to fall on Lonnie, Erwin quickly rescued her, but he himself lost consciousness. At this moment, Levan, who was fighting the bandits, suddenly shouted, "Young lady, don't worry about anything. Run! Only then did Lonnie come to her senses. Perhaps leaving here would be the best help for everyone. However, before she could take action, a man grabbed her from behind. Levan tried his best to rescue her, not backing down even when facing the fierce bandits. But the next second, he was severely wounded by the bandit leader. He could only watch helplessly as Lonnie was taken away. Sylvia, arriving late, saw the casualties at the scene. She immediately realized she had made a terrible mistake. She had thought Marquis Rodden's daughter would only teach Lonnie a lesson. She never expected things would go this far. At this moment, the Duke and Duchess were still unaware of what happened. They were personally making a small doll for Lonnie's meals. It took a month to complete, but they still felt that. The purple crystal couldn't compare to Lonnie's eyes at all. So, the Duke paid an astronomical price for a purple diamond. Now they were just waiting for it to arrive to replace the crystal. The Duchess was already imagining Lonnie receiving the doll, jumping around happily in her adorable way. However, at this time, a guard rushed in to report. Young Lady Lonnie had been kidnapped by enemies. The Duke immediately ordered a team to search the Saba forest. But because it was Count Tilna's territory, even the Duke couldn't interfere freely. So he made a decision. He promised to owe someone a favor. The guard's expression was shocked, as this was a very valuable promise. The Mars family, known for always repaying debts, saying they would owe a favor was a rare occurrence. The Duke learned that some bandits were captured and imprisoned in the dungeon. His expression turned cold as he said, "Lead me there. I will interrogate them personally." At this time, the prince and princess happened to arrive. The Duke had wanted to give Lonnie a surprise, but instead received such terrible news. As prince, Henry couldn't freely interfere in noble affairs. But this concerned Lonnie's safety. She couldn't stand by idly, so she decided to secretly join the search team. Meanwhile, the kidnapped Lonnie slowly regained consciousness. Seeing the masked person before her, she quickly closed her eyes, planning to find the right moment to leave clues for the Duke. Just then, the carriage suddenly jolted. The pattern on the masked person's clothes was revealed. Lonnie immediately recognized it as the symbol of the Rodden Marquis family. So the mastermind was Lady Lydia. The girl had fallen victim to a premeditated kidnapping, and the mastermind was actually the Duke's sister's daughter. Her pitiful appearance caused guilt and fear among the kidnappers. After all, as knights, they had their own honor. Moreover, the girl was sponsored by the Mars family. If discovered, they feared for their lives. At this time, Lonnie asked tearfully, "Can I go to the bathroom?" Fortunately, they only gave verbal warnings and stopped watching her. It was impossible to escape in the current situation, so she looked around for something to write with, planning to leave some clues. Although she was afraid of pain, getting back to her family was the most important thing. So she bit the inside of her lip until it bled and took off her sock, writing several English letters on it, hoping the Duke could find her with this clue. Alone in the carriage, Lonnie was heartbroken, not knowing how the injured Levan was doing, and those night uncles. She really missed everyone. Suddenly the carriage stopped. A familiar voice rang out, "This situation suits you so well." The person was indeed Lydia. The vicious girl slapped Lonnie without saying another word. The force was so strong it startled even the knights. "I couldn't slap you then, so now I'm giving you double. Now there's no Andy to protect you, and no brother yes for you to act cute with. What will you do?" Lydia laughed maniacally, not at all like how a child should behave. From the beginning, Lonnie was the one wrongfully treated, but Lydia played the victim instead. "Don't expect Uncle to come find you, because you'll never see him again." Lonnie was shocked. "Are you going to kill me? I'm not that bad of a person. I'm just sending you back where you belong." Lydia's laugh was very sinister. It immediately reminded Lonnie of those dark days. Who could save her now? Meanwhile, the Duke had arrived at the forest with his men. Levan felt extremely guilty for failing to protect Lonnie, not considering that he was still just a child himself. Besides, he was injured too. "Lord Duke, regarding this incident, may I share my thoughts? What have you thought of?" Count Tilna's territory is an illegal trafficking ground. Slave trading is very common there. And the largest port, Impak, is a hotbed for human trafficking. So that place is very suspicious. The Duke found this intelligence very credible, so he immediately sent people there. Just then, Andy found the clue Lonnie had left. The letters clearly hinted at the Rodden Marquis's mansion. Could they be the mastermind? So the Duke sent people to check the Marquis's mansion, and sent young Andy back to the estate. Then he hurriedly led his men to the port. At this moment, Lonnie was locked up. After feeling around, she discovered there was a bathroom nearby. nearby. If that's the case, there must be ventilation for the bathroom. She had to leave quickly before being discovered. But when she climbed up to the window, the door was suddenly burst open. To avoid being caught again, she jumped down without hesitation, sprinting towards the dense forest. The girl was kidnapped and about to be sold as a slave, so she seized the opportunity and ran into the forest. But soon, she bumped into someone. The girl thought she would be captured again, but unexpectedly, that person's voice was as gentle as an angel's. "Child, are you lost? What's your name?" Lonnie didn't know the person before her, but instinct told her this wasn't a bad person. So she answered, "I'm Lonnie. Can you help me?" The person immediately recognized the girl, possessing the eye of truth. That was something only royal descendants could use. Even the current emperor didn't have such powerful ability. Before they could confirm the girl's identity, the knights who kidnapped her caught up. Lonnie instantly became like a frightened rabbit, quickly hiding to one side. The silver-haired woman pointed the kidnappers in the opposite direction, but after she led the men away, she found the bushes empty. However, they would meet again soon. At this time, the Duke, with the prince's help, had arrived at Port Impact to search. He firmly believed Lonnie was still here. After all, the kidnappers would act during dawn when guards were less vigilant. So he ordered that even ordinary houses shouldn't be overlooked. Meanwhile, Lonnie, who had been running all day, was almost at a house. But the next moment, she was caught again. "Try to escape one more time, and I really won't let you off." The man's gloomy appearance made all the children sob in fear. Lonnie also forcefully covered her mouth to stay silent. Just then, someone came in saying something terrible had happened. Enemies were attacking, appearing to be noble soldiers. Lonnie knew it must be the Duke coming to save her, so she rushed out while the two were talking, quickly locking the door behind her. She rushed outside without wasting a moment, because she knew if she failed this time, she might never escape. But she didn't expect another door ahead, which wouldn't budge at all, while the kidnappers' laughter echoed behind her. Lonnie could only turn around to find another exit. She was terrified, wondering if she'd never return home. The next second, she crashed into a man, instinctively covering her head and crying in fear. "Please don't come near me, please." But then, that familiar voice came. "Lolo, calm down. It's all right now. It's all right now." It was Lord Duke. At this moment, Brother Yes also rushed towards her eagerly. "I'm so glad you're safe. If we hadn't found you, I would have regretted it forever." Lonnie immediately threw herself into her brother's arms, afraid that this was all just a dream. Her tense nerves finally relaxed. She fell asleep just like that. After some time, they returned to the Duke's mansion. Lonnie woke up from her dream. She immediately threw herself into Madame's arms, crying. Everyone was immersed in the joy of recovering what was lost. The Duke's mansion returned to its former vitality. Everyone was competing for the privilege to spend time with Lonnie. Young Master Yes directly extended an invitation to Lonnie, and so everyone moved forward together towards a happy future. The orphan girl was actually of royal blood, but Lonnie felt no joy upon learning this. Instead, she chose to continue her current life. For her, this was her true home. Soon, they all grew up. Although Lonnie knew she possessed divine power, life continued as usual. This was her simple and modest wish. Kind-hearted Lonnie became a volunteer to help the common people. But as the empire expanded with spirit fire, the number of war casualties grew daily. So the Mars family built an annex specifically for treating the wounded. Lonnie secretly used her divine power to heal those who were suffering. These years of experience made her more grateful to the Duke's family. This debt of gratitude could never be repaid, so she wanted to pass happiness to everyone around her. Just then, I brought a letter. Lonnie was extremely excited, guessing it was a reply from Brother Yes who went to the battlefield. But unexpectedly, it was an invitation from the royal family. Princess Bianca and Lord Henry's birthday was approaching. Lonnie felt emotional. Due to the war, they hadn't seen each other for a long time. But only I knew this was the Duke's measure to prevent her from meeting Prince Henry. Just then, there was a knock at the door. A visitor arrived, claiming to look for their long-lost child. Over the years, countless people had come claiming kinship, but power detection proved them all false. Though Lonnie felt sad, she could quickly recover. Unknowingly, wrinkles had appeared on the Duchess's face. But in her eyes, Lonnie was still that little girl who hadn't grown up. However, the peaceful life was about to be disrupted. Today was the royal banquet. Lonnie attended with her brother and the Duchess. The girlfriends who hadn't met for long happily gathered to drink together. Prince Henry also hurried to make his presence known. Seeing his shy expression, it was clear he still liked Lonnie just as he did when they were young. Bianca, who was still shipping them, was startled by Andy's sudden appearance. She instantly became like a bristling cat. The two still fought playfully like they did as children. Lonnie couldn't help but ship them too. But she couldn't help thinking how nice it would be if Brother Yes were here. When thinking of Brother Yes, Lonnie's heart couldn't help but flutter. But after all these years, she still didn't understand what this feeling was. Seeing that others noticed, Lonnie shyly hurried to leave the scene. But she accidentally bumped into someone. Her divine power suddenly manifested without warning. To avoid revealing that she possessed divine power, Lonnie quickly bowed her head and apologized. Thus, she didn't see the woman in front of her. Unknown to her, the woman stared at her back, muttering to herself, "This girl looks very similar to the Lonnie I knew. Could that child be her? What's the connection between the orphan and the Emperor's lover?" Lady Castor encountered a familiar figure at the banquet. After investigating, she was surprised to discover that child was initially called Rooney when she arrived at the Duke's mansion. However, she refused to believe it was her Lonnie. After all, she had personally confirmed the child's death years ago. Soon the Duchess learned about someone investigating, and that it was Countess Castor's maid. The Duchess wondered why Lady Castor would investigate Lonnie, but the next moment she had a guess. Before Castor was married, she had disappeared for a year. Many speculated she was hiding to secretly give birth. Whatever the truth was, the Duchess couldn't ignore it, so she decided to take measures first. Soon it was time for Lonnie's birthday party. Almost all nobles attended, hearing they would announce Lonnie's official registration into the Duke's family. "Thank you all for attending my birthday party. I hope everyone can have a good time." Most people were instantly captivated by Lonnie. She was not only cute but also graceful. However, a few people still had hostility in their eyes. Lonnie, with her divine power, could clearly sense it, but she didn't take it to heart. She just missed Brother Yes even more at times like this. While she was lost in thought alone, Andy quietly approached, worriedly asking if any young masters had been bothering her. "Since our sister is so beautiful, how could others remain indifferent? So if anyone harasses you, just tell your brother." Andy got increasingly excited, causing quite a commotion. Lonnie didn't want to be watched like this, so she went outside alone to clear her mind. But she encountered more unpleasant comments. Finally, they even maliciously speculated about her relationship with the Duke. "The Duke isn't here. Why don't we go talk to her? Maybe we'll get along well." Several creepy men blocked her path and started harassing her. But the next second, Andy suddenly appeared. Such loose tongues. Seems the Mars family is quite amusing to you. The men were caught red-handed and panicked, but still thought it was a minor matter not worth pursuing. Andy thought differently. How dare they humiliate his beloved sister? Just as he was about to act, Lonnie pulled him back. "Brother, we don't need to deal with people who don't respect noble reputations." The men realized and blushed with shame, all asking Andy to uphold justice. But Andy was very satisfied with his sister's response. Just then, a pleasant male voice came from not far away. "It seems you've been living too comfortably." Yes gave the three men a good scolding. Then Duke Inji appeared. His fierce gaze immediately scared them so much they nearly wet themselves. "Your families will never set foot on Mars family territory again." After the guards dragged them away, Lonnie happily threw herself into the Duke's arms. With tears in her eyes, she expressed how much she missed him. Then came Brother Yes. Just one look at each other, and her heart skipped a beat. She couldn't calm down at all. This was Brother Yes lifting her high like when she was little, worriedly saying she was light as a feather, asking if she'd been eating properly. Lonnie's face instantly turned red. Too shy to look up, the neglected Andy popped up seeking attention. The family returned to their usual lively atmosphere. The girl was kidnapped by a marquis's daughter when she was young, almost sold as a slave to another country. After the Duke investigated, he immediately bankrupted the marquis's family, making the noble marquis's daughter become a maid to an illegitimate princess. You reap what you sow. However, even after such humiliation, Lydia still stayed, waiting for a chance to take revenge on Lonnie. Because the princess also liked the Duke's eldest son, Yes. But whenever Yes returned from battle, he would see Lonnie first. This made the princess very unhappy. "What's so good about that girl? It's so annoying." Although in the princess's view, Lonnie was too ordinary to be a rival, she still found her very irritating. So the malicious princess gave Lydia a task to eliminate Lonnie by any means necessary. This played right into Lydia's hands. Soon, Countess Castor confirmed Lonnie's identity, though she didn't know why her supposedly dead daughter had appeared there. It was actually a good thing now. At the right moment, she could leverage this without mercy. Just by claiming her as an illegitimate child, she could better control the situation. Then using her status as a count's daughter for marriage alliance, she could create better conditions for her son Hal. This was her only thought when she learned her daughter was alive. At this moment, Lonnie was at the training ground with brother Andy. The atmosphere between them was as close as when they were children. The sister complex Andy held his sister's doll, preparing to build a snowman. The father and sons rarely agreed on something. In pairs, they began building snowmen. The Duke paired with Andy, while Lonnie went with brother Yes. Just as Lonnie was lost in her own thoughts, she suddenly got hit in the face by a snowball from brother Yes. Instantly annoyed, she pounced on him, but he caught her hands instead. Her face immediately turned bright red with embarrassment. Although she knew her feelings for brother Yes were different, she still couldn't understand what those feelings were. Until brother was called away by the Duke, she just stared at his back, lost in thought. A few days later, the Duchess told her husband about what she discovered through investigating the maid who previously cared for Castor and the letters between him and the Count. They could confirm Lonnie was Castor's daughter. Lonnie possessed divine power, so the Duke reasonably suspected she was the bloodline of the former deposed crown prince. After all, they had been intimate at that time. The Duke and Duchess had ways to keep Lonnie and Castor completely separated. But what if Lonnie wanted to be with her birth mother? After all these years together, the Duke and Duchess had always treated Lonnie as their own child. Though reluctant, they respected Lonnie's wishes more. They just hoped the girl could follow her heart and live happily. The girl finally understood her feelings for brother were what's called first love. Just now, the Duke again sought Lonnie's opinion, hoping she would consider joining the Duke's household registry. If you're willing, we welcome you anytime, because we've long considered you family. With mixed feelings, Lonnie went out alone to clear her mind, though she also loved everyone in the Duke's mansion and wanted to live with them forever. She had concerns. She felt joining the registry would damage the Mars Duke family's reputation. Having been under the Duke's protection since childhood, she wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Just then, brother Yes rode up on horseback. He had noticed she wasn't in the mansion late at night and worried something might happen, came looking for her. I couldn't sleep, so I came out for a walk. You could be kidnapped like this. What would you do if I hadn't come? Lonnie pouted in disagreement. After all, she wasn't a child anymore. Since we're out, I can't just take you back without doing anything. Saying this, Yes extended his hand, inviting her to ride together. After Lonnie agreed, Yes lifted her up in one motion, and for safety, placed her hands around himself. Now it seemed she really couldn't enjoy her walk. Lonnie was shy the whole way, quietly nestled in her brother's embrace. Until the horse stopped, she realized the scenery here was incredibly beautiful. Yes smiled happily, seeing her expression gradually brighten. He asked very gently, "Does my Lolo have any wishes? I heard wishes made in snow-covered fields will surely come true." Before Lonnie could react, Yes said, "Then let me make a wish first. I hope Lolo can live happily and carefree with us forever." At this moment, Lonnie finally understood that different feeling she had since first meeting brother Yes as a child. So this was what they called first love. For a moment, she didn't know how to face her brother and could only shyly suggest going back. Yes had his own guesses, seeing her reaction. Meanwhile, Countess Castor was thinking about whether the Duke's family would adopt Lonnie. She found it incredible that the Duke's family would treat Lonnie, who had no blood relation, as family. So she had a theory that the Duke knew about Lonnie's divine power. Only then would everything make sense. After all, a girl with divine power would become a powerful card to expand Hal's influence. With ill intentions, she decided to confirm it herself. Go to the Duke's mansion and bring Lady Lonnie here immediately. I have something important to tell her. Since realizing her feelings for her brother, the girl had been in an excited state, unable to concentrate on anything. Just then, Ein hurriedly came to report that an attendant had come to fetch her on behalf of her birth parents. Lonnie didn't take it seriously, having experienced many mix-ups over the years. However, this time seemed different, because before that, the Duchess had something to say. "The person looking for you is connected to your birth mother." The Duchess told Lonnie the whole story, wanting to hear her thoughts. After a pause, the girl solemnly asked, "If I don't want to go, can we pretend we don't know?" The Duchess knew this wouldn't work, but even so, As long as Lonnie disagreed, they would risk everything to prevent it. But Lonnie was still afraid. If her royal divine power was discovered, they wouldn't let it go. Things might even get worse. But the royal family hadn't appeared yet, probably unaware of this matter. Just then, the butler hurriedly reported the Duke's message, asking Lady Lonnie to meet the people sent by Count Castor. They went downstairs together. The man introduced himself as Count Castor's butler, Patterson, sent to escort Lady Lonnie. "My lady, you might be the Countess's long-lost daughter, so we hope you'll come with us to confirm." After just seconds of thought, Lonnie firmly refused. "I don't know either Countess Castor or you, so I won't leave with you." The man immediately brought up the temple, saying this invitation had official temple approval. But Lonnie still refused, saying even the temple had no right to force her. Then Yes suddenly appeared, firmly stating, "Please leave. She won't go with you." The butler remembered the Countess's words. If Lonnie strongly refused, don't force her. So he apologized, bowed, and turned to leave this place. However, just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, urgent voices came from outside. "Emergency! The royal family has sent people." Someone reported the young lady for impersonating nobility. The next second, a squad of soldiers burst in. "Excuse us. By order of the princess, we're here to take the criminal away." The girl was reported by the villainous princess. She was about to be arrested by guards for impersonating nobility. The Duke was furious. He was determined to protect Lonnie. Whatever the charge, this child is a noble. She cannot be forcibly taken away under any circumstances. After saying this, he drove all the guards out. Lonnie then remembered that when she was young, to register her in the Duke's family, they had used a dying family surname for her. So this issue had always been a hidden danger. Seeing everyone busy and worried about this, she felt very guilty and made a silent resolution. Meanwhile, Avon at the temple learned the news. He seemed distracted all day. He hoped the Holy Maiden would help when the time came. But the Holy Maiden knew Lonnie was actually royalty and would face troubles in the future. Worried sick, Avon still decided to visit the young lady. That night, Lonnie packed her bags and left the Duke's mansion to avoid causing more trouble for everyone. This was all she could do. Just then, Levan caught up with her. Lonnie finally broke down. She actually didn't want to leave. Thinking of all these years living like family with everyone, she couldn't take a step forward. But besides leaving, she felt helpless. "I must look ridiculous, saying I'll leave but dawdling around." Levan immediately comforted Lonnie. "Actually, I don't want young lady to leave. I believe everyone feels the same. Besides, don't you like young master you?" Lonnie embarrassedly tried to deny it, but Levan had always known since childhood. "It's all right, just like who I like is my business. Who you like is your freedom. So please return to the mansion. This isn't your fault. Everyone at the Duke's mansion truly loves you. So don't leave, if not for yourself, then for them." Lonnie was moved by these sincere words. She decided to face this crisis. Soon the trial began. Even the emperor personally attended to witness. The princess had a smug look on her face. She ordered people to bring in the Cray family's daughter, complete with identity cards and seals. Now, they just needed the temple's divine power to investigate. However, the princess demanded Lonnie to resonate with this so-called young lady. If their bloodlines were different, it would be life-threatening. At this point, the Duke finally spoke. "Before this, shouldn't we verify that young lady's identity first? Perhaps she's the one impersonating nobility." The man was clearly nervous. As everyone was at an impasse, the Holy Maiden suddenly arrived. And with her came Lonnie. "I heard someone wanted to put me on trial, so I came." The princess looked contemptuous. She mocked Lonnie thoroughly. Unexpectedly, Lonnie directly admitted she indeed wasn't a noble. The two villains were extremely pleased. However, in the next moment, Lonnie said something that shocked everyone. "Actually, I'm a royal princess. When accused of impersonating nobility, I'll reveal my true identity. Royal status. I came here to prove this point." The princess who made the accusation panicked, hastily claiming Lonnie was insulting the royal family. However, the emperor warned her with a subtle expression. If she was lying, even the Mars family would be implicated. Lonnie would never allow that to happen, and only she could resolve this matter. The emperor then asked the high priestess to verify. The high priestess approached with a sacred artifact. She touched Lonnie's forehead and infused divine power. Instantly, Lonnie's pupils turned bright blue. Everyone present widened their eyes. including the emperor and the duke couple, because the divine power Lonnie displayed was unprecedentedly powerful. The emperor immediately smirked, already planning how to use her. So, she didn't conduct a deeper blood lineage test. Instead, she recognized Lonnie as her long-lost daughter. Looking closer, you do resemble me. You're about the same age as the fourth prince. You should make good companions. When you're officially crowned princess, I'll give you a new name. Lonnie never imagined she would leave the duke's mansion this way. But to resolve the current predicament, this was the only way. I have something to say to your majesty. It was Lady Mars who noticed my divine power. Without them, I might never have known my true identity. Therefore, I hope that in this matter, no one from the Mars family will be implicated. At these words, the emperor, who had intended to punish the duke's household, was left speechless. The tactless princess still wanted Lonnie punished, but was instead scolded by the emperor for spreading rumors. Fearing punishment, the princess quickly shifted blame to Lydia. She resented Lady Lonnie and even instigated others to kidnap Princess Lonnie before. That person was her. The emperor made an example of her, ordering soldiers to imprison her. Lydia kept begging Lonnie for help, pleading for mercy. However, remembering everything that happened in childhood, Lonnie felt no sympathy for her. She turned and left directly. After returning to the duke's mansion, everyone came to comfort her worriedly. Lonnie pretended to be very strong, but Yes saw through her facade. If you don't want this, the duke's household will do everything to help you. It's all right, brother Yes. I've been very happy growing up in the duke's mansion. Thank you for raising me. Thank you everyone for everything during this time. I'll go now. Please take care, everyone. Lonnie hurriedly left the room. Once she was gone, the duke's household would be safe. However, the next moment, brother Yes hugged her from behind. Lolo, remember this. No matter what happens, you'll always be part of the Mars family. We'll always be by your side. Lonnie finally broke down. She turned and hugged brother Yes, cherishing this last moment of warmth. After all, the emperor was wary of the duke's household. She wouldn't easily let them meet again. Until the emperor's officials kept urging, Lonnie finally smiled and bid everyone farewell. Just after returning to the palace, the emperor introduced her to Countess Castor. How beautiful is my daughter? Who would have thought the mother-daughter reunion would happen this way? The countess wanted to tell the emperor everything, but Lonnie interrupted first, saying she felt unwell and wanted to leave, clearly not wanting to acknowledge their relationship. Castor was sad for just a second, then made an outrageous decision to arrange marriage between her daughter Lonnie and son Hal. To expand Hal's influence, the girl returned to the palace as a princess, which made her brother very sad, blaming himself for failing to protect his sister. If he had power, would things have been different? Just then, he heard someone calling brother. He thought Lolo had returned, but opening the door, he found nothing. This wasn't like his usual self. He could only hold Lolo's doll and miss her. Meanwhile, in the palace, Bianca awkwardly called Lonnie aunt. Their childhood friendship suddenly changed status, making both of them very uncomfortable. So Lonnie suggested they be casual in private. Bianca hugged her, crying, apologizing for her insincere words earlier. After they sat down, Lonnie hurriedly asked Bianca about the Duchess's health. She asked me to tell you, she's doing well at the Duke's mansion. She's more worried if you're eating properly. Don't worry about anything. Just focus on being happy here. My brother and I will take good care of you. Lonnie felt slightly relieved hearing this, though she came to the unfamiliar palace. At least she still had precious people around. Just then, Bianca took out a pink cloth package. Saying Yes asked her to deliver it. Lonnie opened it puzzled, finding an exquisite hairpin inside. Though Yes didn't say anything then, I could feel how much he misses you. Lonnie's face turned red instantly. Seeing this, Bianca was overjoyed. That night, Lonnie had a dream. In the dream, she wore that hairpin, and brother Yes appeared beside her, embracing her tightly, constantly expressing his longing. I miss you so much. Lonnie suddenly opened her eyes. She mocked herself for dreaming about brother Yes because she missed him so much. However, the next moment, someone appeared in her room out of nowhere. When that person removed their cloak, Lonnie finally saw clearly who it was. It was brother Yes, whom she had been thinking about day and night. Oh, you're still awake, Lolo. I came to see you. Hearing brother Yes' comforting words, Lonnie instantly broke down. They embraced each other. I miss you so much, brother Yes. Lonnie unconsciously spoke her heart out. This surprised Yes greatly. However, the movement in the room caught the guard's attention. Yes knew it was time to leave. He crouched down and pressed his forehead against Lonnie's. Our Lolo will be alone again, but you must take good care of yourself, eat and sleep well, okay? Thus ended their brief meeting. The next day, Lonnie went to the royal temple. She hadn't seen Lowen since last time. She heard he had been transferred here. Just then, the Pope appeared with Lowen. As Lonnie understood, the Pope's status was equal to the High Priestess, but held significant secular power. Thus his position in the palace was no less than the High Priestess. After brief greetings, Lonnie and Lowen went to the outer courtyard. During his days here, Lowen had discovered very interesting information. The current royal family claimed they were from the same family as Cloyd, who founded the empire, sharing the same bloodline. But rumors said that the founding emperor was actually from the Mars family. His name was Drona Mars. Her long-lost mother wanted her to marry her own brother. Just now, Lonnie accidentally learned the Mars family's ancestors, like the royal family, had legitimate right to inherit the throne. Normally, such topics were forbidden, but Lowen said he accidentally overheard others discussing it. He was clearly hiding something, but Lonnie didn't force him to reveal everything. Instead, she let him leave. If what he said was true, it meant that the empire's rightful rulers should be the Mars family. That's why the royal family was so wary of the Mars family. Further thinking, if the Mars family's founder was indeed a woman and successfully ascended to the throne, it meant princesses also had inheritance rights. That day, later Lonnie met an unexpected person. It was Ein, who had cared for her since childhood. The Duke had pulled strings to let her in. She became Lonnie's personal maid again. Ein dressed her hair as usual. This reminded Lonnie of her days at the Duke's mansion. Time had passed without her noticing, and Ein brought her very important news. The royal family was selecting a personal knight for her. They would hold a sword tournament outside the palace. The winner would become her personal knight. Lonnie immediately thought of Brother Yes, but this thought only lasted for a second, because she knew royal guards couldn't marry. After all, guards with families were considered vulnerable. Their loyalty couldn't be guaranteed. Just then, Lady Tass requested an audience outside. Lonnie didn't want more people to know about this, so she asked Ein to step aside. Unexpectedly, the Countess hugged her, saying it was her birthday today, then took out a beautiful necklace as a gift, but Lonnie firmly refused it. The fact that you're my birth mother cannot be made public, and I remember I've already clearly refused you. The woman didn't expect Lonnie to be so resolute. She realized she needed to try harder, so she began playing on emotions. No matter what, you're my child. I didn't abandon you intentionally. I searched the entire village, thinking you were dead. You're not the emperor's child, but the child of the deposed crown prince. So, I couldn't search openly. The current emperor is selfish. If you lose your value, you'll be discarded. So to secure your position, you must rely on your brother. Lonnie felt a chill run down her spine. Clearly, she meant marrying her to a brother she'd never met. She thought her mother would feel guilty, but this was unexpected. What am I to you, really? This was your purpose from the beginning, wasn't it? If I had gone to the Count's mansion then, I would have become an illegitimate child, barely surviving. My lady just wanted to use me all along. With that, Lonnie resolutely asked the woman to leave. Several days later, the sword tournament arrived. Today was the day to choose her guard knight, and she learned shocking news from Ein. Brother Yes would participate in this competition to become her knight, to see his sister every day. He voluntarily entered the guard knight selection. Once chosen, he could never inherit his title or marry and have children. And this arena showed no mercy. Even losing one's life would only prove their lack of strength. Lonnie kept praying in her heart, brother must stay safe. Soon the competition began. Before long, Yes made it to the finals. The emperor was very displeased about this, and Princess Erin, who liked him, was even more unhappy. She directly proposed a marriage alliance between Yes and the royal family. Lonnie knew that if the emperor agreed, even brother Yes couldn't easily refuse. Therefore, she pointed out the unreasonableness of proposing marriage to a tournament participant. Unexpectedly, the emperor turned and asked her, "Do you want the Mars family's eldest son to be your knight?" The atmosphere instantly turned cold. Fortunately, Lonnie thought quickly. She stated that changing rules midway would affect the royal family's reputation. Besides, if someone from the Mars family became a knight, wouldn't that mean they'd serve the royal family? The emperor immediately saw the logic. Perhaps they could even use this to suppress the Mars family's influence. Sure enough, Yes won the competition. The emperor, knowing that becoming a royal guard meant forfeiting inheritance rights, sarcastically remarked about the Mars family's bright future. However, Yes ignored this. Instead, he knelt before Lonnie. I, Yes of the Vowels family, wish to swear allegiance to the princess. Will you accept my oath of loyalty? He then kissed the back of her hand. I hope my request doesn't put too much pressure on the princess. Hearing these words, Lonnie finally smiled with relief. With brother Yes by her side, it seemed any difficulty could be overcome. After returning, Yes again explained his purpose for coming. I came to protect you voluntarily. Father also wanted me to do this, so you don't need to worry about anything. They briefly forgot everything else, embracing tightly, savoring this hard-won moment of happiness. Yet they didn't know danger was approaching. Meanwhile, the Duke received news about reclaiming Gosenbo Station. However, this was a crucial moment in the campaign against Grangees. They feared unexpected incidents might occur. There was another important piece of news. Count Louis, formerly from Felton of D Kingdom, had requested the Emperor to marry Princess Erin to him. Normally, the Emperor had no reason to refuse. Once, Louis had personally beheaded Felton's military leader, allowing the Empire to easily reclaim Felton. But the Duke completely disapproved of this man. He also had a feeling that Felton might likely be restored. Looking at various clues, Lewin was likely the missing son of the Grand Duke of Felton. They looked exactly alike. He just hoped Lonnie wouldn't get caught up in these troublesome affairs. Meanwhile, the cheerful Lonnie received an unexpected visitor. The High Priestess had also noticed something. She asked Lonnie about Lewin. Although Lonnie had grown up with Lewin, she actually didn't know much about him. Just then, the High Priestess revealed shocking information. Lewin had a hidden identity, and the royal family would soon be embroiled in bloodshed. The newly recognized princess was assassinated at the banquet. Today was her first appearance as a princess, yet she could only gaze from afar at her family from the Duke's mansion. Thankfully, with brother Yes beside her, she didn't feel so alone. However, due to her status, everyone present, regardless of their motives, tried to engage her in conversation. So brother Yes had to personally fetch drinks. And through this New Year's banquet, Lonnie clearly saw that the Emperor favored the fourth prince. He even made excuses to prevent the crown prince and Princess Bibi from attending. Just as she was looking around out of boredom, an assassin disguised as a maid rushed out. Fortunately, Yes arrived in time. Chaos immediately erupted. Yes overwhelmingly subdued the attacker and discovered the woman's true identity. She was a discriminator from the conquered enemy state of Senbo. After the attacker was taken away, Yes immediately went to check on Lonnie's condition. Although she wasn't injured, she was clearly severely shocked. She was terribly frightened. Despite being prepared, she still couldn't accept the cruelty here. This incident threw the Duke's mansion into disarray, and Yes realized that merely protecting her by his side wasn't enough. Lolo needed to be taken away from the Emperor. So the usually loyal Yes surprisingly proposed forcing the Emperor to abdicate. After all, the current Emperor only cared about his own interests, neglecting the Empire's people. The Duke actually began to seriously consider this. Weakening royal power and strengthening their own force was the practical solution. Soon, by royal command, I will lead troops to suppress the rebellion in Felton. The severe cold and imperial journey were unfavorable, but the Duke had already planned. We can't trust the Emperor anymore. We must protect Lolo ourselves. Days later, Lonnie received news that the Duke was injured and missing during his campaign. The last sighting of the Duke was at the Iris Valley, where fighting had occurred. He might have been ambushed while searching for food and water. Being near cliffs, he likely met with misfortune. Lonnie collapsed in grief. This deeply affected Yes. He ordered everyone to leave, then told Lonnie that her father was still alive. Details couldn't be discussed here, but first he needed to take her to meet someone. Lonnie thought they were going to see the Duke. Unexpectedly, Yes asked how much she knew about Lewin. We're going to the church. There you'll learn some important facts, not just about your father's whereabouts, but also about your friend Lewin. To protect a girl with no blood relation, the usually loyal Duke was plotting to suppress the throne. Just now, Lonnie followed Yes to the church. She met Levan, who had been missing for long. After brief greetings, Lonnie asked why she was brought here. Yes truthfully explained. The Duke's disappearance was pre-planned. The Duke, disapproving of the Emperor's autocracy, wanted to check royal power. Only with the Mars family's absence would neighboring countries take action. Then, the royal family would have to rely on the Mars family's strength. However, unexpectedly, the Emperor also tried to eliminate the Duke. So after the attack, the Duke took the opportunity to hide. Hearing about the Duke's injury, Lonnie was extremely worried. To prevent her from worrying too much, Yes didn't reveal the actual extent of his injuries. Instead, he said the Duke was hiding safely in a secret base. Their intimate behavior deeply hurt Levan, but he chose to keep his feelings hidden. In that case, how long will the Duke have to hide? Just a few months at most, until the Empire's control weakens and the occupied territories start rebelling. Then the royal family will need the Mars family's help. But why is Levan here? What's his connection to all this? The Duke gave me a suggestion, asking if I wanted to reclaim Felton. Lonnie suddenly realized Levan was actually the missing son of the Felton Grand Duke's family. The Duke hopes I can become Felton's Grand Duke and lead the rebels to help him. The Duke had approached him days before the incident. Initially, Levan had no plans to restore his country, only wanting to stay by Lonnie's side, because Lonnie was his new goal and reason to live. But the Duke told him his sister, who supposedly committed suicide, was still alive, and she was being imprisoned in the traitor Lewis's mansion, living the rest of her days in darkness. Moreover, becoming Felton's Grand Duke would give him the power to better protect Lonnie. How could he refuse such a beneficial arrangement? I hope you can forgive me for not staying by your side. They held hands, encouraging each other, blessing each other. Soon, the Emperor received news of Felton's rebellion. Clearly, without the Mars family, no one could stop the occupied territories from rebelling. The helpless Emperor was furious. But when thinking of Lonnie, he showed a very sinister smile. Season 2 quietly concluded. Border unrest. The treacherous Emperor had no one to use. So Lonnie became the key to solving the problem. He immediately tried to have Yes desecrated, because the Imperial Guard couldn't break their oath, and orders from the Emperor would be criticized. So now, the best solution was for Lonnie to dismiss him personally. Let Yes return to inherit the Mars family, then lead troops to suppress and recapture Beau Felton. Lonnie couldn't believe it. The Emperor knew the Duke was in danger, yet took no action. Now he wanted brother Yes to follow the same fate. So she directly refused this proposal. But unexpectedly, the Emperor's face changed instantly. Do you want the Mars family eliminated? The Dog Emperor not only threatened verbally, but also kept applying pressure. At that moment, Lonnie's divine power activated unconsciously. She saw the Emperor ordering people to disguise as Felton forces to eliminate the Duke, and create false documents framing the Mars family for colluding with enemy states. Sure enough, the Emperor immediately used this to threaten her. But if Yes achieved merit on the battlefield, he could make amends. I will also forgive his father's mistakes. Lonnie knew direct confrontation was useless now. She could only pretend to know nothing and smile hypocritically with him. That night, Lonnie disguised herself and went to find Yes, and told him everything exactly as it happened. Although I got his promise, I still have to send you to the battlefield. I'm very afraid you'll get hurt. Yes immediately grabbed his hand, comforting that such worries won't come true. But don't do such dangerous things anymore. What if the Emperor notices? Remember, always put yourself first. After all, you're my most important person. Such touching words made Lonnie's heart flutter, and Yes felt the same way. So she made a promise. Even if I step down from the Imperial Guard position, whenever you need me, I'll come back immediately. Until then, please stay safe, okay? Although they hadn't openly addressed their feelings. But how is this any different from a confession? They stayed close to each other, cherishing this rare moment of warmth. Soon came the day of Yes' departure banquet. The fourth prince, whom they hadn't formally met, appeared. By blood relations, they were half-siblings sharing the same mother. But from their father's generation, he was his uncle's child. So the fourth prince calling him sister was confusing. And when learning that the Emperor had arranged Hal as his dance partner for this banquet, couldn't help but be surprised. What exactly were they planning? And on the way to the banquet hall, Hal also said, "Strange thing, sister. Only if I become emperor will mother be happy." That's all. After their entrance, Hal left the place. The long unseen Duchess took the chance to talk with him. Their polite but distant interaction made Lonnie sad. However, the next moment, the Duchess quietly moved closer, whispering in his ear that if you encounter any difficulties, you can tell us. We'll always stand by your side. Family who understand each other need no excessive words. The moment of parting quietly arrived. Yes, as the head of the Mars family, swore loyalty to the royal family, then looked at Lonnie lovingly and said, I also swear to protect the Empire with my life and let no harm come to Her Highness. No one could predict what the outcome would be, and thus the horn of war was sounded.